Wait, what did you just say? Ella's voice trembled as she stood frozen, a half-washed plate still dripping soapy water in her hands. Her stepmother, Mrs. Felicia, turned around slowly with a wicked grin. I said you're getting married, my dear, to a man who can't see you, literally. Ella blinked. You mean blind, as in can't see me at all? Exactly, Felicia replied, tightening her wrapper like someone announcing good news. He wears those thick glasses that look like old-fashioned binoculars. He walks with a wooden stick. But don't worry, he's rich, very rich. At least now you'll be out of this house and we can all breathe again. From the corner of the room, her stepsisters Vanessa and Dora burst into laughter. Perfect match, Dora said between giggles. A blind man for a blind future. Ah, finally! Vanessa clapped. Maybe he'll think she's beautiful since he can't see. They laughed so hard the walls could have fallen. Ella just stood there, speechless, her heart thudding like a drum inside her chest. The world around her spun. She wanted to scream, to fight, to run. But where would she go? Her parents were gone. Her father's wealth was gone. Her life, her freedom, her everything. Gone. And now she was being traded off like a sack of beans. Tears blurred her eyes, but Felicia only sighed dramatically, waving her hand. I beg, stop crying like generator oil. You should thank me for finding you a husband. Some girls your age are still praying for village boys that can't afford toothpaste. Ella's tears kept falling, but deep inside she thought, if this is love, then I'll rather marry loneliness. Once upon a better time, Ella's life was a fairy tale. Her father, Chief Roland, was not just rich, the man was wealthy. The kind of man whose car horn alone could silence a market. Yet, despite his money, he was humble to a fault. People in the town adored him, the traders, the farmers, even the beggars at the junction. He believed in giving. When others threw parties to show off, Chief Roland would quietly build boreholes or pay school fees for children he didn't even know. But to Ella, he was more than a hero. He was her entire world. Ella, my jewel, he would always say, pulling her into his strong arms. The day you were born, heaven smiled twice. You're the pride of my heart. He meant every word. He spoiled her, but not foolishly. Every Sunday they would sit by the garden fountain where he'd tell her family stories, tales of strength, wisdom and kindness. He taught her to greet elders properly, to share food with the hungry, and to never look down on anyone, even a beggar. Life was perfect. She had a father who loved her, a home full of laughter and dreams as big as the sky. Until that day, it started small, a slight cough. Just catarrh, Chief Roland had said, waving it off. A good bowl of pepper soup will fix it, but the cough refused to leave. Then came fever, then weakness. Soon, the strong man who once lifted Ella like a feather could barely raise a spoon. Doctors came and went. Native healers brought roots, leaves, and incantations that smelled like expired palm wine. Prayer warriors shouted until the roof nearly cracked. Nothing worked. Felicia, his new wife, pretended to care, always weeping loudly whenever visitors came. But behind closed doors, she rolled her eyes like a tired actress in a bad movie. One evening, Ella sneaked into his room. The once powerful man now looked so fragile, his skin pale, his breathing shallow. Papa, she whispered, kneeling beside him. He smiled weakly. Ella, my sunshine. His voice was thin, but the warmth was still there. Come closer. She held his hand, tears falling freely. Don't cry, my jewel, he whispered, brushing a tear from her cheek. I'm proud of you. You have your mother's strength and my stubbornness. He chuckled softly, but the sound faded into a cough. Listen, he continued, gripping her hand tighter. When I'm gone, remember who you are. You are a Williams, strong, kind and wise. Don't let anyone take away your light, you hear? Papa, please don't talk like that, she sobbed. You're not going anywhere, he smiled faintly. Even if I do, I'll still be with you. Here. He touched her chest gently, right where her heart beat fast. And then silence. The hand that held hers went cold. His eyes, once full of fire and laughter, stared into nothing. Ella froze. Papa? No answer. Papa, please. She shook him, calling his name again and again, but he didn't move. Outside, the crickets sang. Somewhere, a cock crowed. Too early, too loud, too cruel. The mansion that once echoed with laughter was now filled with wailing. That night, Ella learned that even the brightest stars eventually burn out, and in that moment, she didn't just lose a father, she lost her shield, her joy, her peace, her world. If life had a reset button, Ella would have pressed it the moment her father, Chief Williams, was laid to rest. Everything changed after that day. The mansion that once smelled of love, fried plantain and laughter, now reeked of bleach, wickedness, and Madame Felicia's perfume that could knock out a mosquito at 10 meters. Felicia didn't even wait for the condolence visits to end before she began her reign of terror.
Ella!
Her voice thundered from the living room one morning. Have you washed the compound, the cars, my wrapper? You're just sitting down there like a misplaced statue. The same woman who used to call her my dear stepdaughter had suddenly turned into something else, half human, half disaster. Vanessa and Dora, her two stepsisters, followed their mother's footsteps proudly. They strutted around like peacocks wearing new wigs. Every time Ella bent to scrub the floor, one of them would walk by with a deliberate swing of hips and say something nasty. Be careful, Ella, Vanessa mocked one afternoon, sipping juice. Don't scrub too hard or you'll vanish. We don't want your ghost haunting our dinner table. Dora snorted. I beg, ghost key? If she becomes a ghost, she'll still be washing plates in the afterlife. They laughed so loudly the housemaids outside stopped sweeping to peep in. Ella bit her lip and continued scrubbing. Every stroke of the brush reminded her of her father, his laughter, his strength, his love. He had promised to protect her forever, but death had cheated her of that promise. Now, she lived in the same mansion her father built, yet she had no place she could truly call her own. Her father's room was locked, his clothes were sold. Even his favourite armchair, the one where he used to read newspapers and sip palm wine, had Felicia's new throne. At night, when everyone slept, Ella would whisper her father's last words like a prayer. I am Ella Williams. I am my father's daughter. They can take my home, but my light. Those words were her only inheritance. Weeks turned into months. Ella had accepted her fate. Cook, clean, repeat. But one evening, while she was rinsing the mop bucket, Madame Felicia suddenly appeared in the doorway, wearing that her suspicious I have bad news disguised as good news smile. Ella, she said sweetly, pack your things, you're leaving tomorrow. Ella froze. Leaving? Why? What did I do? Felicia rolled her eyes, always with the drama. You're getting married, my dear. Isn't that what young girls like you dream of? Married? Ella's heart jumped. To who? A good man, Felicia replied quickly. Very decent, very quiet, and, well, slightly blind. Ella blinked. Wait, slightly what? Blind, Felicia said again, pretending not to see the horror on Ella's face. But don't worry, he's a good man. He may not see your face, but at least he won't complain about it either. From upstairs, Vanessa and Dora burst into giggles like two witches on break. Perfect match, Dora shouted. A blind man and a useless girl. Both can't see their problems coming. Felicia ignored them, adjusting her wrapper with pride. You should be grateful, Ella. He's marrying you without asking for dowry. Do you know how many girls can't even find husbands who can see? Ella's chest tightened. But I don't even know him, Ma. Felicia's tone changed, sharp and cold. You don't need to know him. You think I'll keep feeding you here forever? Marry him and go live your blind love story somewhere else. That night, Ella cried quietly into her pillow. Her tears soaked the old bedsheet until it clung to her face. The moon outside watched silently, as if it, too, pitied her. The next morning, the so-called groom arrived. He was tall, well-built, and moved with a calm confidence that didn't quite fit the description of a helpless blind man. His eyes were hidden behind dark glasses, and in his right hand he carried a polished wooden cane that tapped gently against the floor as he walked. Felicia rushed forward, smiling like a politician during campaign season. Welcome, my in-law! You're most welcome! Ella stood quietly in one corner, her palms trembling. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep and surprisingly warm. Good morning, ma'am. Is this Ella? Felicia grabbed Ella's arm and pushed her forward like a parcel. Yes, this is my lovely stepdaughter. She's humble, hard-working, and forced, Vanessa muttered under her breath. Felicia shot her a glare, then turned back with a smile. Please, have your seat. The man nodded politely and turned slightly toward Ella. You don't need to be afraid, he said softly. I may not see you, but I can tell your spirit is gentle. His words startled her. For a man she had never met, he spoke like someone who already knew her. He asked about her interests, her late father, her favourite food. His tone was calm, deliberate, like every word was meant to make her heart slow down. For the first time in months, Ella didn't feel invisible. Still, she couldn't ignore the sadness behind his smile. There was something in his voice, a quiet pain, a secret he wasn't sharing. By evening, the wedding date was set. Madame Felicia didn't waste time. She wanted Ella gone before the weekend. As the preparations began, Ella felt like her life was being wrapped up and shipped off without her consent. Everywhere she turned, someone was whispering. The housemaids gossiped, Vanessa mocked, Dora laughed, and Felicia hummed gospel songs like she was doing charity work. Ella sat on her small bed that night, her few belongings packed in an old box beside her. The stars outside twinkled faintly like they were trying to console her. She whispered again, "I am Ella Williams. I will not let anyone take my light." But this time, her voice broke halfway through. Because deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking straight into another trap. And she was right. The man she was about to marry wasn't who he claimed to be. But that truth, that shocking truth, it was still hiding behind those dark glasses. Days rolled by. Ella Williams sat by the small wooden window of her new home, her fingers tracing the edges of the frame as if searching for her father's shadow. The world had gone quiet for her, too quiet. Sometimes she wondered if life had decided to punish her just for being kind. Her stepmother, Madame Felicia, and those two demons she called daughters, Vanessa and Dora, had made sure of that. The grand mansion she once lived in, with its white pillars and marble floors, was now just a painful memory. She remembered how her father's laughter used to echo through the halls, how he'd call her "my sunshine." Now even the sun seemed to have forgotten her name. Her new life as Mrs. Ella, blind man's wife Williams, was, well, strange. Her husband, Daniel, soft-spoken, calm and blind as they said, wasn't anything like she expected. She thought he'd be the shouting, cane-slamming type, the kind that for every sound in the house. But no, Daniel was different. Too different. He was gentle, always speaking to her with warmth that made her feel seen, ironically. He never forced words out of her, he just listened. And when he listened, it felt like he was reading her soul with those covered eyes. At first, Ella stayed cold like suya meat left overnight without pepper. But little by little, she started melting. She'd tell him stories of her father, her dreams of becoming a designer, her fears and her anger at the world. And he, Daniel, the mysterious blind man, would smile softly, saying, "Ella, sometimes life hides blessings in dirty packages." She'd roll her eyes and reply, "Ah, well, mine must be wrapped in refuse bag because it's smelling of stress." He'd laugh, a deep, rich laughter that filled their small house like music. Days passed and Ella began to notice small things about him. Things that didn't add up. His sense of direction, for one. This man, blind, but he could walk from the kitchen to the backyard, dodge the bucket she forgot to move, and still find his chair without missing a step. Was it witchcraft or muscle memory? Then there was the food. She once caught him seasoning stew like a professional chef, tasting, adjusting, even garnishing with parsley. "Ah, Daniel, you sure say you blind?" she had asked, half joking. He smiled. "Blindness doesn't affect taste, my dear. Moreover, I have mastered what I do daily. Remember, this has been my house." Ella nodded. "I just wondered on how you do things perfectly," she muttered under her breath. Their home was small but peaceful. There were no fake smiles, no insult competitions, no cold stares, just quiet mornings, warm evenings, and the smell of freshly cooked okra soup. But deep down, Ella couldn't shake one thing. There was something off about Nathan. Sometimes he received strange letters, always sealed in gold wax. Sometimes visitors came at night, dressed in plain clothes but standing too straight, like bodyguards pretending to be villagers. She'd ask, "Who are those men that come by?" He'd reply calmly, "Old friends checking on me." "Checking or reporting?" she whispered once, suspiciously eyeing the window. Then came the visit that nearly set her blood boiling. Madame Felicia and her two brats, Vanessa and Dora, stormed Daniel's house one afternoon, uninvited as usual. They came in smelling like expensive perfume and trouble. "Ah, so this is where you're hiding, Ella?" Vanessa sneered, her diamond-studded wrist flashing in the sunlight. "From mansion to mud hut, chai! How are the mighty fallen?" Dora, her sister, snickered. "Your husband is blind-eye. At least he won't see your foolishness." Ella inhaled sharply, biting her tongue so she wouldn't speak in tongues. But before she could even respond, Daniel appeared from inside, calm and dignified, leaning on his cane. "Good afternoon," he greeted politely. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh, the blind man speaks. Tell me, sir, how does it feel to live off charity?" Ella froze, her hands trembling, but Nathan only smiled faintly. "Charity," he said softly. "My dear, Charity lives here. We feed her every morning." Even Dora didn't get the joke until a few seconds later. The tension in the room grew so thick you could slice it with a spoon. Ella had had enough. She stood tall, looked her stepmother in the eye, and said, "Madam Felicia, this might shock you, but I'm happy. Yes, happy! And not because of your fake diamonds or your mansion full of ghosts, but because for the first time in my life, I have peace." Madam Felicia hissed so loudly, even the birds took flight. "Nonsense, girl! You're still a disgrace! I'll see how long your so-called peace lasts." She stormed out, dragging her daughters behind like two reluctant goats. Later that night, Ella sat outside under the moonlight, thinking. She realized she had done something she never thought she would. She had stood up for herself. Nathan joined her quietly. "You did well today," he said. "I just hope they don't come back with juju," she muttered. He chuckled. "Don't worry, I have my own protection." "Really? From who? Herbalist or heaven?" she teased. He only smiled again, that same secret smile that always made her wonder what was behind those dark glasses. Weeks passed. The village buzzed with excitement. The annual Unity Festival was coming. Music, masquerades, and endless food. Nathan insisted they attend. "Let's celebrate, Ella," he said warmly. She frowned. "Celebrate what? My unpaid bride price?" He laughed. "No, our survival." That night, as she dressed in her simple blue wrapper and coral beads, she caught Daniel adjusting his walking stick near the mirror. But something strange happened. Just for a split second, before he noticed her reflection, he reached out and looked straight at her through the mirror. Her heart skipped. Wait. Looked? She blinked hard, trying to convince herself she imagined it. The village square was on fire that night. Not literally, but with laughter. Drums and jollof rice that smelled like heaven had descended on earth. It was the annual Harmony Festival, the one day when even the stingiest neighbours brought out food for everyone. Ella hadn't felt that kind of joy in years. For once, she wasn't scrubbing floors or washing Madame Felicia's lace wrappers till midnight. Tonight, she was just Ella, laughing, dancing, free. Her husband Nathan, the blind man the whole village pitied, stood beside her with his cane. Somehow, he danced like a man who could see every drum beat. His steps were sharp, his rhythm flawless, and when he held Ella's hands, she swore he could see her smile. At one point, she burst into laughter, shaking her head. "Ah, Nathan, are you sure you can't see? The way you're moving in, even the drummer is jealous." He smiled quietly. "When joy is pure, my dear, even the blind can dance to it." Ella rolled her eyes playfully. "See Proverbo, so you're a philosopher now?" They laughed together, twirling under the moonlight as villagers clapped and cheered. For the first time in years, Ella felt light, like her father's words were finally true. Happiness is not about where you live, but who you live with. But peace in Nigeria never lasts long before Wahala locates it. Because just as Ella spun around, she saw three figures that made her heart sink. Madame Felicia and her two daughters, Vanessa and Dora, standing at the edge of the crowd, looking like jealous angels who had been kicked out of heaven. Their faces were tight with irritation. Vanessa whispered something into Dora's ear and both laughed wickedly. Madame Felicia strutted toward Ella like a queen inspecting her lost maid. "So this is where you are," she sneered. "Dancing in public like a happy woman. You think poverty is now something to celebrate?" Ella froze but quickly regained herself. "At least this poverty gives me peace of mind, ma. That's something money can't buy." Vanessa snorted. "Peace of mind with a blind man? God, I beg!" Madame Felicia's eyes narrowed. "Don't think your life will ever get better than this, Ella. This is your level. Accept it before shame finishes you." Before Ella could respond, Nathan gently placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice, calm but firm, carried through the noise of the crowd. "She has something better than gold, Madame Felicia. She has peace, respect, and freedom. You should try it sometime." That silence that followed could roast yam. Even Dora swallowed hard. Madame Felicia hissed so loudly, the drummers almost missed a beat. "Nonsense, couple! Blindness has affected your brain too." She turned and marched away, her daughters clattering behind her in their high heels like confused goats.
Ah!
After the festival, Ella couldn't stop thinking about her husband, his calmness, his confidence, and the way Madame Felicia had looked at him, almost suspiciously, like she sensed something was off. And truthfully, there was something off. A few days later, Ella was sweeping the compound when she saw 3 strange men walking toward the house. They were dressed too fine for village visitors, flowing agbardas, polished shoes, and walking like the ground wasn't even worthy to carry them. "Good afternoon, sirs," Ella greeted, bowing slightly. "Good afternoon, madam," one replied politely. "We're here to see Mr. Nathan." "Ah, Mr. Nathan? Not the blind man? Suspicious already." She led them to the small sitting area. Nathan welcomed them with a calm smile, his voice unusually formal. "Gentlemen, you made it." "Wait, mate? Made it?" Ella blinked. "Made what? Rice? Fleeting?" As she quietly served them drinks, she noticed how the men looked at her with respect, almost admiration. Nobody in the village ever looked at her like that, except the church pastor when they exchanged greetings. The men spoke in low tones, exchanging knowing glances. Every now and then, Nathan nodded like someone receiving updates, not like an ordinary blind man from a small town. When they finally left, Ella pretended to be sweeping nearby. As soon as the gate closed, she turned sharply. "Nathan, who were those men?" "Old friends," he replied with a small smile. "They just came to check on me." She folded her arms. "Old friends in fine Agbada? Abi, they are from the Ministry of Checking on Blind People?" He chuckled softly. "You're learning sarcasm too fast, my dear. But curiosity doesn't rest, especially not in an area where gossip moves faster than Wi-Fi." The next day, as Ella walked through the market, she overheard 2 women whispering behind the vegetable stand. "Did you see those men who visited Ella's husband?" one said. "They look like men from the government house or palace." I even heard the blind man isn't really who he says he is," the other replied, biting into roasted corn. Ella's hands trembled as she picked her tomatoes. Government house or palace? What business could Nathan possibly have with these people? She tried to shake it off, but her mind refused peace. That night, while they sat by the fire, Nathan surprised her with something that left her speechless. A golden bracelet, so fine it sparkled even in the dim light. Her mouth fell open. "Nathan, where did you get this?" He smiled. "It's a family heirloom. I want you to have it, a reminder that you are loved always." Ella's heart melted instantly. But as she held the bracelet, her mind screamed, "Family heirloom key? From which family? Village Blind Man Association?" She said nothing, just smiled and wore it, though her curiosity burned like pepper soup in her chest. By the next week, Madame Felicia had heard about the bracelet, because in that village, secrets travelled faster than electricity bills. Without warning, she appeared at Ella's door like an uninvited ghost. "My dear Ella," she said sweetly, her smile faker than Lagos traffic apologies. "I came to check on you. You seem to be enjoying life, Ella forced a smile. "We thank God, Ma." Madame Felicia's eyes darted around the house, her nose twitching like a rat sniffing for secrets. The place looks nice, and that bracelet on your hand, gold, right?" Ella hesitated. "It was a gift from Nathan." Madame Felicia's fake smile vanished. "A gift? From a blind man? My dear, don't tell me your husband is doing Yahoo Blind Edition! Madam!" Ella snapped, offended. But Madame Felicia wasn't done. "You expect me to believe that a man who can't even see his food is buying gold bracelets? My dear, open your eyes before they use you to launder money." Ella glared at her, but kept her composure. "We are happy, Madame Felicia. That's all that matters." Felicia said slowly, her face darkening. "We'll see about that." She left with her daughters, whispering like evil parrots, but one thing was clear. Madame Felicia was not done. She had smelt something unbelievable. And she was determined to dig until she found out who this so-called blind husband really was. That night, sleep ran away from Ella like Nipah light during rain. She turned on the small bamboo bed, staring at the ceiling as if answers would be written there. Something about Nathan, her so-called blind husband, wasn't adding up. He was too composed, too calm, and sometimes too accurate for someone who supposedly couldn't see. She sighed, got up quietly, and tiptoed into the sitting room. The moonlight spilled in through the cracks of their wooden window, painting silver lines on the floor. She was about to sit down when she heard voices, low, serious ones, coming from the front door. Her heartbeat quickened. Ella moved closer, peeking through the curtain like a proper Nigerian investigator. There stood Nathan, talking to a tall man dressed in black agbada, his face almost hidden in the dark. Their tones were hushed, but their gestures screamed serious business. The strange man kept glancing around like someone being followed by village people. When the man finally left, Ella quickly pretended to be adjusting the curtain. Nathan turned and froze slightly when he saw her. "Ella," he said softly but firmly, his calm voice carrying the weight of something unspoken. "Why are you awake?" "I should be asking you that," she shot back, folding her arms. "Who was that man? What's going on?" Nathan walked closer, his steps slow and measured. "There are things about my past that I've kept hidden," he said, voice low. "Not because I don't trust you, but because some truths can be dangerous, especially for both of us." Ella raised a brow, clearly unimpressed. "Dangerous, Key? Nathan, you're blind, not James Bond. Who's chasing you?" He gave a small smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "Please, trust me. When the time is right, you'll know everything." She wanted to argue, but something in his tone told her it wasn't the right night to push. "Fine," she muttered, rolling her eyes. "But if I wake up one morning and find out you're a spirit or something, just know I'll faint dramatically." Nathan chuckled softly and squeezed her hand. "You won't need to." But deep down, Ella wasn't sure. The following days were restless. Nathan went about his daily routines, carving wooden figures, tending the garden, cooking with precision that baffled even Ella. "Blind man my foot," she thought. The way he chopped vegetables straight and perfect, no mistake. It didn't sit right with her spirit. So one afternoon, when she couldn't take it anymore, Ella walked to the edge of the village to see Mama Rose, the oldest woman in the area. People said she had more wisdom than Google and could tell stories that made grown men cry. "Mama Rose," Ella began, sitting on the low stool, "I need your advice. My husband, he's hiding something. Sometimes I feel like he's blind. Other times I feel like he's pretending. Should I ask him or let it be?" Mama Rose chuckled, chewing her cola nut slowly. "My daughter," she said, "a man who hides his eyes is not always blind. Sometimes he's just watching who truly sees him." Ella blinked. "Mama, please speak English." The old woman laughed so hard her wrapper nearly came undone. "It means patience. If your husband is keeping secrets, wait. The truth always sneezes out, no matter how long it hides." Ella nodded, not fully convinced, but comforted by Mama's words. A few days later, the unexpected happened. 2 men wearing royal outfits, bright blue kaftans with gold embroidery, arrived at their home. Ella's broom nearly fell from her hand. She thought maybe they were tax collectors or debt chasers from Madame Felicia, but their polished shoes and accents screamed palace people. "We seek the man called Nathan," one of them said, bowing slightly. Nathan turned his face toward them calmly. "I am he." They exchanged glances, then spoke in low tones that made Ella's stomach twist. Their words sounded urgent, like something big was unfolding. They kept looking at her with polite suspicion, and she didn't like it one bit. After they left, Ella crossed her arms and stared at Nathan. "Okay, Pastor Nathan, Apostle Nathan, or should I say Prince Nathan, who are you really?" Nathan exhaled deeply. "Ella," he said quietly, "I think it's time I told you the truth." Her eyes widened. So Mama Rose's prophecy donned day work already?" He smiled faintly. "My real name is Prince Nathaniel Daniels of the Olaro Kingdom." Ella blinked. "N? I am not blind," he continued. "It was all a disguise. I left the palace to find someone who could love me for who I am, not for my crown or wealth." Ella's mouth dropped. She looked him up and down, half expecting to see gold chains appear from nowhere. "Wait, so all this while I've been cooking beans for a prince? You mean I've been washing your royal boxers with my bare hands?" Nathan chuckled softly. "You have shown me the kind of love money cannot buy. That's all I ever wanted." Ella stared at him, trying to process everything. A small laugh escaped her lips. "So, when Madame Felicia called you a poor blind beggar, she was actually insulting a whole prince? I wish I had recorded that day." Tears filled her eyes, half from laughter, half from disbelief. Nathan took her hand gently. "Ella, I didn't choose this life to deceive you. I chose it to find truth, and I found it in you." She looked at him, her heart pounding, emotions swirling like a storm. "So what now? Your royal blindness?" He laughed. "Now we go home to my palace. But first," he winked, We'll have to teach your stepmother some royal manners." Ella burst into laughter, tears streaming down her cheeks. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just the orphaned girl Madame Felicia mocked. She was the woman who unknowingly captured the heart of a prince. And somewhere deep inside her, a small voice whispered, "Finally, Ella Williams, your season of suffering done expire." From that night, everything changed. The air around them felt lighter. Nathan shared bits of his royal life, stories of a grand kingdom, of court meetings that dragged longer than Nigerian traffic, of a kingly father and a queen who never accepted fake smiles. He told her how tired he'd grown of the women who flocked around him for his name and crown, and how escaping to the quiet village gave him peace. Ella listened, fascinated. She wasn't just married to a good man now. She was married to a royal package with mystery flavour. But while love was blossoming in their small compound, Madame Felicia, that woman whose spirit couldn't mind her business, began sniffing trouble like a rat near leftover stew. Her jealousy boiled over the day she passed by Ella's home and saw her stepdaughter wearing a beautiful gold bangle. It wasn't ordinary gold, it glowed as if the sun itself approved it. "Ha! God of thunder! She's living comfortably, oh!" Madame Felicia hissed, fanning herself dramatically. "And she said that man is poor. There must be jazz involved." She wasted no time calling the village gossip committee, also known as the women who don't work but know everybody's story. Together they marched to Ella's house under the pretense of greeting her, but with eyes sharper than CCTV cameras. When Nathan welcomed them warmly, Madame Felicia plastered a fake smile on her face. "Ah, Ella, my daughter! See how you're glowing. You must be eating better food now. I can see, your husband is doing well, despite his, you know." Her eyes darted to Nathan's dark glasses. Ella folded her arms, smirking. "Despite his what, mummy?" "Aha! I didn't mean anything bad-o. It's just, well, we are happy you're doing well. Very happy." Nathan's calm smile never wavered. "We thank God for everything," he said simply. But Felicia couldn't help herself. "Ella, this your husband? He doesn't look like someone who can't see O. Are you sure everything is okay? Because the way he turned when I walked in, his blindness seems to have Wi-Fi connection." The room went silent. Even Dora and Vanessa, who had tagged along for drama, exchanged nervous glances. Ella gave a slow smile. "Mummy, sometimes it's not only blind people who pretend. Some people also pretend to be mothers." The insult flew so smoothly that even Nathan tried to hide his laughter behind a cough. Madame Felicia's face tightened. You're now talking back to me because of man Arbai? Don't worry. When his real face shows, you'll come crying." Nathan and Ella clapped their hands dramatically and said, "Madam Busybody, go and find your prey. Don't ever come here again. Your presence stinks." They said it was if it's been memorized. With that, Felicia and her crew stormed out, heels clicking like a marching soldier. That night, as the moon floated high, Nathan turned to Ella and said, "It's time," she frowned. "Time for what? To reveal that you're secretly Batman?" He laughed softly. "Time to return to where I belong, and for you to meet my family." Ella blinked. "Wait, you mean palace things?" He nodded, smiling. "I want the world to know the woman who captured a prince's heart." Her stomach somersaulted. So me, Ella Williams, the same girl Madame Felicia used to send to wash toilets, will now be entering palace?" "Yes," Nathan said proudly, "and not as a maid, but as my wife." She covered her face dramatically. "Jizu, if my stepmother hears this, she'll faint like someone her bank alert turned negative." The journey to the royal kingdom took days. They travelled in a royal chariot that Nathan's guards had secretly kept hidden nearby. Ella couldn't stop gasping at every new thing she saw. Wide roads paved with white stones, children dancing, and markets where even the yam sellers wore gold earrings. When they reached the palace, Ella's jaw nearly dropped to the ground. The gates alone looked like something imported from heaven. Inside the great hall, 2 thrones stood tall, glittering with gold. The king and queen rose as Nathan entered. "My son," the queen cried, her eyes filling with joy. "You've returned!" Nathan knelt and smiled. "Mother, father, meet Ella, the woman who taught me what love truly means." Ella, nervous but proud, bent slightly. "Good evening, your majesties. I didn't know I married the royal edition of a human being." The queen laughed warmly and drew her in for a hug. "Welcome, my daughter. You have a pure heart. We've been waiting for you." Days turned into weeks, and Ella began to settle into her new royal life. The palace was like a dream. Gardens that stretched like paradise, maids who insisted on bathing her feet, which made her laugh and squirm, and endless feasts that made her wonder if she'd ever fit into her old village dresses again. Nathan showed her around proudly. The royal lake, the ancient library, even the hidden balcony where he used to escape as a boy. But through it all, Ella remained humble. She helped the kitchen staff, played with the guards' children, and treated everyone with the same warmth she had in the village. Sometimes she would sneak out to the garden and whisper, "Papa, I hope you can see me from heaven. Your Ella made it. Not by money, not by beauty, but by heart." And as the wind rustled the palace trees, it felt like Chief William's spirit smiled down on her, proud of the woman his daughter had become. But back in the village, gossip flew faster than Harmattan dust. Madame Felicia's loud voice had suddenly gone silent. Her once proud face now carried wrinkles of regret, but the real thunders began the day she discovered that Nathan Okoro, the blind man she had forced her stepdaughter Ella to marry, was in fact the heir to the Okoro dynasty in the big city. When the news broke, Felicia almost fainted beside her pot of soup. "Jesu!" she screamed, slamming the wooden spoon against the pot. You mean the same blind man that was eating beans and Gary in my backyard is a whole prince?" Vanessa and Dora, her daughters, stared in disbelief. "Mummy, you must be joking. Prince Key? That man that can't even see the road to our compound?" Felicia slapped her chest dramatically. "My enemies have used me. The girl I chased like a stray goat is now living in a palace." From that day, Madame Felicia knew no peace. Her jealousy grew wings. She could hardly sleep, eat, or even gossip in peace. The picture of Ella in royal attire kept flashing in her head. She imagined her stepdaughter giving orders to palace maids, sitting beside Nathan like a queen, eating jollof rice cooked with royal oil. No, she couldn't let it go. She wanted a share. So she gathered her two daughters one hot afternoon and said, "Girls, pack your bags. We're going to the palace." Vanessa frowned. "For what, Mama?" Felicia rolled her eyes. "To visit your sister, of course. We are family, or have you forgotten? After all, a little royalty should rub off on us too." Dora chuckled. "Mama, hope you won't go and disgrace us, oh. That palace is not like Village Square." Felicia hissed. "Keep quiet before I slap sense into you. If anybody should enjoy the Okoro wealth, it should be us. I raised that girl. If not for me, she would have died of hunger. She owes me everything." And so off they went, dressed in their best wrappers and fake designer handbags. Madame Felicia even borrowed a gold wig from her neighbour, claiming she needed to look responsible. When they arrived at the palace, the guards almost didn't let them in until Ella spotted them from the garden. She froze for a second, confusion dancing on her face. The last people she ever expected to see at her new home were the very ones who once called her a curse. Still, her heart was soft. She took a deep breath, adjusted her gown, and went to welcome them. "Good afternoon, Ma. Vanessa? Dora? What brings you here?" Felicia put on her best fake smile and opened her arms wide. "Ah, my daughter! You didn't even come home to see us. We've missed you. We just heard the news. Imagine! You married a prince. God has really remembered us." Ella smiled faintly, though her heart was tight. "Thank you, Ma. Please come inside." They sat in the garden, surrounded by flowers and palace guards standing like statues. Madame Felicia's eyes roamed everywhere. The fountain, the gold chairs, even the servants holding trays. She said loudly. "So this is how rich people live. I knew it. I told people my Ella would make it one day. And look at you now. You are far richer than all the wealth your father had ever seen," Vanessa whispered. "Mama, you have never said that about her." Felicia shot her a look. "Do I need to tell you everything I say?" Ella chuckled quietly. "So what brings you here, really?" Felicia's fake smile vanished slowly. "We just came to make sure you remember where you came from. Don't let this palace life make you forget us. After all, if not for me, you wouldn't even know Nathan." Before Ella could respond, Nathan walked out of the hallway, smiling. Though he couldn't see their faces, his voice carried authority. "Madame Felicia, welcome, but please understand something. Ella owes you nothing. You treated her like a stranger in her own home, yet here she stands, strong and kind. We won't tolerate disrespect in this palace." The air grew tense. Vanessa and Dora exchanged awkward glances. Madame Felicia tried to laugh it off. "Ah, Prince Nathan, don't take it that way. I was only—" But Nathan cut her short, his tone firm. "You were only cruel, greedy, and unkind. Leave this palace before you say something you'll regret." Her mouth hung open, but no words came out. For the first time, the mighty Madame Felicia was speechless. The guards escorted them out gently but firmly. The walk back to their cart felt like a punishment. The news of her disgrace spread faster. Ah, Madame Felicia don't suffer. Even her stepdaughter chased her away from palace. That night, Felicia couldn't sleep. Her pride was shattered, her daughters silent. For the first time, she realized that karma didn't need an invitation. It always came home. Soon, joy found them again. Ella became pregnant. The palace celebrated as if heaven itself had sings through her womb. The king and queen danced like young lovers when they heard they'd soon have a grandchild. People rejoiced too. Their little Ella, the orphan they once pitied, was now carrying royal blood. Months later, Ella insisted on visiting her father's grave in the village. Nathan went with her, holding her hand as they walked through the familiar, dusty paths. She knelt before they whispered, "Daddy, I made it. I'm happy now. I wish you were here to see it." Tears fell quietly, but they were tears of healing. Before leaving the village, she asked to see Madame Felicia one last time. The woman looked frail. Life had humbled her. Ella stood before her, calm and gentle. "Madame Felicia," she said softly, "I came to tell you that I forgive you. Truly. I don't hold anything against you. I just hope one day you'll find peace too." Felicia's lips trembled. She lowered her head and muttered, "Ella, I don't deserve your forgiveness." Ella smiled faintly. "That's what makes it forgiveness." As Ella and Nathan left the village, the wind carried a strange stillness, the sound of old wounds finally healing. Back in the palace, laughter returned. The woman who was once mocked as a cursed orphan now held hearts as the beloved Princess Ella Okoro, graceful, forgiving, and finally free. Hello, beloved viewers. Thank you so much for watching this emotional story of love, forgiveness, and sweet karma. Moral lessons. Never look down on anyone, because life has a funny way of turning tables. Today's nobody can become tomorrow's royalty. Forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It sets your heart free and lets peace find you. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more touching and inspiring stories every day. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Madame Felicia truly deserves?